Hello, 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 y'all. Welcome. Welcome. Looks like we have a small stream thus far. Thank you all for joining me. We're probably just going to vibe for the first couple of minutes. Hey, Spicy Gluten. Give people time to trickle in. Oh, while we're vibing, I am going to... Oh, no, it looks like... Okay, my viewer numbers are out of date. Hello, hello. I see 4 viewers, but more than 4 people have just said hi in chat. Welcome, everyone. I am going to, while we're waiting for people to trickle in, upload the code that we were working on yesterday to GitHub, because I said that I was going to do that, but we ended up not having time. Hey, Spicy Gluten. Hey, Green Yoshi. Hey, Tuba. Hey, Anoskros. Hey, Rati. Hey, oh my goodness. Hey, Wesley Jesus Dev. I remember. Hey, Circuit Student. Pharaoh, thanks for the link. Hey, Ulwa, welcome. First time chatter. Song Yilang, welcome. Hello, 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 y'all. Let me... Okay, so everything's set up there. Okay, GitHub time. I'm going to... Did I make a repo? I don't even think I made a repo last time. For those of you who don't know, my name is Dimmer. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a coach with Major League Hacking. And today we are going to be continuing a project that we started yesterday, which is we are going to be creating a 3D platformer in Godot. We had the start of our movement code and our character like stand-in model, but we did not actually run anything. And we were having some interesting issues because the tutorial that we were following, while it is a very good tutorial, is based on the previous version of Godot. So there are just like some interesting changes there that have happened since Godot has updated. Okay, let me find... Here we go, great. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen while I create this GitHub repo. Wait, I need to check to see where this is located. I'm forgetting where. I thought part 1 was today. No, today is part 2. Does it say part 1 on any of the stream titles? Or in my announcement? I didn't say part 2 in the announcement in hindsight. I really should have. I am uploading the code. I just need to find it really quickly. There we go. Okay. This directory does not appear to be a repository. Create a repository here. You are Dimmer, right? Yes. It says part 1 on the website. Ah, dang. Okay. So I know at one point, when I was giving the stream titles, I gave a typo and I said part 1 twice. Let me double check. Implementing a third-person camera in Godot. Today's the 9th. What? No, this is implementing 3D character control. My stream titles this week were not very specific. And also the music stopped. Oh, no, it did not. Okay. Well, regardless, it does say part 1. I apologize for that. It is a part 2, but I am going to be publishing the code so you can catch right back up. Theoretically, it actually already just got published. Let me double check. GitHub Desktop is very nice for quickly spinning things up. GitHub.com. Let me read through chat when I... Wait, I need to... Get the repository first, then I'll check chat. Your repositories, please have worked. Hey, it worked. Great. Dropping that link in chat. That is the GitHub repository. I'm going to add it to the description of the YouTube stream. Great, okay. So then in the recording, it'll be there as well. Hey, Adepju. Adepju. Happy to be back. Happy to see you again. No worries, just wondering what version of Godot I should download for the course. Just the most recent version, not long-term support. Sorry, can you send it again? I just joined. Yes, of course. I'll actually go to the Godot website right now. We are in no rush to, here we go. Okay, screen share. If you go to godotengine.org, I'm going to drop this link in chat for you as well. Open source game engine. I've talked about it a lot. There are a lot of people talking about it these days. It's very good. And then you click on download latest. It should theoretically identify your operating system, and then you just want this top one. The .NET version is if you want to be able to write code in C#. I don't know C#. I'm not going to be writing my code in C#, so I'm not going to use that. But you can just download this version, or yeah, that version right there. And then, thankfully, it doesn't even need to install. You can just run the application that you are given in the download. Okay, so that is that. Now, we were following this tutorial. And where we stopped last time was, actually, let me open up Godot again. Oh, wait, sorry. Pharaoh implemented how, can you please explain how a repository is implemented? I literally went into GitHub Desktop. I can show this again. I went File, New Repository. I named it A Quick Walk, and then I chose in my local path this, and I just clicked Create Repository. And then I clicked the Publish button. That's it. I just used GitHub Desktop. It did all the hard work for me. And specifically in Godot, if we were to have large assets, then it could be problematic to just bulk say everything goes into the GitHub repo. But in this case, with such a small project, we don't need to do any fancy. How would the user access it correctly from github.com? Oh, wait. Sorry, I just got confused for a second. If you open up, let me get the link myself. If you open up the link that I sent you, you have this code button here, and you can either download it as a zip, or you can, I would recommend opening with GitHub Desktop if you do not know GitHub very well, if this is your first time interacting with it. Do we need GitHub Desktop, or can I just put it straight into Go? You do not need any of that. You can just download it as a zip file and deal with the code directly. I like GitHub Desktop because it is free and super simple. It's not the best tooling for Git, and a lot of IDEs have built-in Git tooling, but I don't know the command line stuff, and GitHub Desktop just makes it easy. And again, free. So if you are going to be using this frequently, I recommend it, but you do not need it for this. You can just click that download zip button and then open up this code right here as a project in Godot. Yeah, of course, Pharaoh. Give me 1 sec to check on something on the back end of the stream, because something seems off. Okay. Everything looks fine. Famous last words, but everything looks to be doing okay. Okay, so shared the code. That jar of moonshine is making me right thirsty. Okay, so I just moved. For those of you who've been to my streams before, you'll know that the background is very different. And I didn't have, like, I had, like, an MLH HackCon mug and actually another mug that I had gotten at a hackathon. I coached a hackathon in Manhattan, Kansas. And the mug said Manhappiness, Kansas. And I had to get it. So I had like 2 mugs. So I went and I got some ball jars, like the wide mouth canning jars, because they work great as glasses. They work great as measuring cups. I like make overnight oats in them. Very versatile. You can store things in them for like me not having many tools and kitchen utensils. And also it does look a little bit weird, but I do think that there is like a certain art teacher energy that is drinking water from a mason jar. Like, I don't know. My pottery teacher in middle school did that. She had like a dedicated massive like mason jar, and it was very good. It was a good vibe that I would love to emulate. Okay, so let me open up Godot here. It says Godot 2 on my computer because of versioning weirdness that I never fixed. It is version 4 of Godot. Looks a bit like Everclear to me. It is just water. I promise. I'm not that fun. Well, and also I'm 20, so in the United States, I cannot legally acquire alcohol anyway. It would be mighty brave of me to just be casually opening the project. It appears to be empty. Okay. I'm going to... Could you share your Git? Okay. I'm going to quit Godot. And we're going to go to the GitHub page, and I'm going to download this with y'all. So we're going to click on code. We're going to click on download zip. We can see that it completed. I'm going to extract it. Now I have a quick walk main. And then I'm going to open up Godot. So now once it is, either if you've cloned it or if you've downloaded it, you have a folder on your system that is a quick walk main. And then you want to do import. And then it's in my downloads. Click that. Project.godot, import and edit. And there you go. So the reason why it looks empty is because you need to open up player script.tscn. And that gives us the player that we were working on. If you don't open up any scenes, then you won't see anything. So this is the blank everything, but you need to open up the scene. That's why it looked blank. To answer Pharaoh's question. Non-pipyap, could you share your Git? Hopefully that answers your questions. I'm trying to catch up. Sorry, I forgot stuck. Had an ad before and it wouldn't load the live feed. I totally understand that. Got it. Great. I assume the scenes would open all automatically. I mean, yeah. I don't know why they don't. I don't know what the design decision there is. I think it might be because we haven't denoted it as the main scene yet, so it might not know. I honestly don't know. Mandy, if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask them. If not, we're going to jump right back into where we were, which was in this script, which actually, I'm jumping ahead of the tutorial here. This is me testing our code. This is not necessarily what you need to follow along with. I just feel like it is probably a good idea for me to test this before we get too far into it. So again, you don't need to follow along here. But what I'm just doing is I'm creating a plane that is a floor for our character to move around on. And then I am instantiating our character body 3D. And now if I click run, I see that some people are having things. Okay. Great. The camera is, yes. Okay, that makes sense. One sec, just testing this to make sure that the code that I'm giving y'all isn't broken, and then I will answer these questions. That was not the axis that I wanted it to spin on. That is. Great. Trying this again. Wait, sorry, I can go over the zip file one more time. Yes, totally. So you shouldn't see the platform. You should see the little bean guy if you double click on player script. The platform is me making some changes. Sorry, I really want to, I'm forgetting something. And I don't know what. Okay, forget this test. We will burn this bridge when we get to it. Okay. Thank you, Kat, I guess. I mean, yes, my misfortune and misunderstanding is a laughing matter. Okay. I have Godot open in GitHub. Which do I download on Godot? So you download on the Godot website. You download latest and this top one for whatever your operating system is. I tried to open it and Godot crashed. Okay, but you eventually got it to work. Loaded the project into Godot, but there's nothing there. Again, you'll need to click on this player script. Or, yeah, playerscript.tscn, which is, it is not a script. I misnamed that. I apologize. That should be, this should be player and this should be player script, but I will, again, fix this later. I got it. Thank you. Great. And Sumi in code, download zip. And then I extracted that zip to get this folder. And then I opened up project.godot in the Godot import menu. I know I didn't walk through all of it, but hopefully that should help. Every plugin is free on the Godot library. I don't know for sure. Just got weird notifications. But I believe so because you can see the license under them. The fact that Godot is open source means that I would believe that these are majority open source, but you can always check to see under it. You'll see the license. Most of these are MIT. And if it has an MIT license or another open source license, yes, it is open source and free. Okay. I am going to rename this to player and this to player script, just for my sanity, because I totally flipped those. And then I'm going to rename this to player. Great, just so that I can better keep track of things. And then in our script, great, okay, I don't need to make any changes there. So this is the code that we had. I scaled it up last time, but I need to scale it down at least one. There we go. And basically we had everything that should allow our character to move. And we were about to start creating our camera controls. That's where we were at. Cat, I guess I don't see collision shape 3D, and it shows an error icon next to character body 3D. So you don't see that. And it shows an error next to character body 3D. So if I do this, yes, okay, great. So I don't know why you don't have it. It's very weird that you don't have it, but that is what that error is. If you were to hover over it, it'll tell you that the error is this node has no shape, so it can't collide or interact. Consider adding a collision shape 3D or a collision polygon 3D. So we have a collision shape 3D. And again, I don't know why it isn't there. It's on the GitHub repo. Shoot, which project? This is a... I really have done myself a disservice here by downloading my project again, because I want to make sure that I don't completely mess up all of my... I made it a Git repo for a reason. Let's try this again. Wow. I'm having a chaotic start to today's stream. Hey, okay, great. Everything there was fine. So yeah, the collision shape 3D is in the GitHub. But if it is not, or if you don't want to go and download it, what you can do is right click, add child node, and they're going to look for a collision shape 3D, and then you're going to click on shape, capsule shape 3D, and then the only thing that we changed was we transformed it up 1 in the position. That's all that we did there. It's a quick summary. Should I just re-download? That's what I would recommend, honestly. I think, okay. I'm just taking a step back because a lot of people have questions in chat. So I want to make sure that we clear those up first before I keep trying to push on. What language does Godot use? Farah answered that for me. GD script or C#. It also can use C++. So your options are Godot, GD script, Godot script, C++. Those are in the one that I recommended you downloaded. And then there's the other option, which also includes support for C#. So you can use any of those three. They all work roughly the same. I generally recommend GD script because it is designed to be used within Godot, and the people who know better than I do say that it removes a lot of boilerplate code that you would traditionally be writing in other languages, so that generally it is a cleaner and nicer development experience. And like Farah said, it's similar to Python. It has its own syntax, it has its own weirdness, but it does generally work pretty similar to Python. And I don't think if you have experience with another programming language that there's anything specific or weird in the language itself. What you're actually learning is the engine, not GD script. Mandy, how do I download from GitHub? So if you go to that GitHub repo and you click download zip, that's the way that I'll recommend if you don't have any GitHub experience. If you do, you can use Git and GitHub Desktop, GitKraken, any of those softwares. But if not, just click download zip. Is Godot similar to Unity? Yes, and it is open source. Unity is not. Unity is popular for a reason. It's old, it's an institution. There are plenty of good games built on Unity. And also, there have been controversies recently with Unity's, I say recently, it was like 3 or 4 months ago, with Unity's pricing model, where they wanted to charge developers per download, Um, and they ended up walking it back, but it showed that like if you build a game in Unity, Unity controls how much they charge you for that game, even after you've made it. And your game is like tied directly into Unity. You can't migrate that. Whereas Godot, open source, you have complete ownership over the engine and they can't change it. They could make huge sweeping breaking changes and you can keep the version that you created your game in and you could maintain that yourself and you could build a whole business around it. You could do whatever you wanted because it is open source. So that's why I recommend Godot. That's why I find Godot interesting to learn. And also it has a really good community around it. There are plenty of game engines out there, but Godot does both 2D and 3D, is growing in popularity, has some like good momentum behind it in terms of them adding new features. And again, really the community is a lot better than at least my experience with other game dev communities. Godot Terrain Painter, do you have any suggestions how I can do that? I do not. I have no idea. I would recommend you Google it. There's chances are a tutorial out there for it. Godot, again, has a fairly robust and vibrant like teaching learning community. Cat, I guess I see it now. Not sure what went wrong the first time. I'm glad you see it now. That's all that matters. Mandy, okay, I've downloaded and extracted. Do I open the main file in Godot or a specific file in that folder? So in Godot, there we go, screen sharing. You're going to click import and you're going to select the folder where you downloaded it to. In this case, I put it in my, I deleted it. So I need to download it again. Okay. In this case, I have this folder here. And then when you click on that, you will see that there is a project .godot, which is the only thing that it'll let you open. And you click that, and then you click import and edit. And then once you click import and edit, it should be working. Do you see Godot having potential in higher level game design? Yes and no. It depends on the type of game. Higher end game design can mean a lot of different things. I think in the AAA space, no. Not at least for the foreseeable future, because there are enough either proprietary engines or most AAA games are looking for realism right now, or looking for specific things that specifically Unreal Engine is knocking out of the park. Unreal Engine has really increased their technology and how they do photorealistic rendering and how they do level of detail dynamically. It is insane the stuff that is happening technologically in Unreal Engine. And it also has been shown to be able to run and like hold and deal with big games because Unreal Engine is what runs Fortnite. So I think that there are other options out there that your big AAA studios are using. I think if you get down to AA studios, there is a potential, but I don't think it's necessarily there yet because it is Godot really picked up steam like recently. I say recently, within the past couple of years, because they added like a bunch of new like tooling and features and things like that. So it's really gone from like a good hobbyist project to like a really viable tool for production. But I think on the indie scale, yes, for indie studios, I think Godot is very much in the realm of being used for higher level game design. Because again, higher level game design can mean multiple different things. There's a huge variety. But if you have an indie team of like 5 to 10 people and you are making a game yourselves, I think Godot is a good option. I think really any game engine that can do what you want it to do that you feel comfortable with is it. Sorry. Well played. I just got really woozy. I'm gonna take a sec. I'm gonna eat some food, get my blood sugar up. I'm gonna put a 5-minute timer on the clock, and we will be back. I just Ooh, I feel really off. Um, we will be back. Apologies for the poor timing, and thank you for your understanding. Hello, 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 y'all. Hey, y'all. Oh. Oh, gosh darn it. Okay, the same thing happened last stream. My camera just died. One sec. I need to go under the desk to fix a cable. Okay. Now if I do this, we're going to give it a minute or two. Let me switch to a backup camera. Somewhere I set up a background or a backup camera. This has just been a chaotic stream. Hey, there we go. Welcome to the quality of my laptop webcam, which is not mirrored, which is wild. Let me fix that because that's going to drive me quite crazy. Hey, things are back to normal. Okay. Thanks for welcoming me back. I have the folder imported. What do I do now? Now you just double click on playerscript.tscn. I somehow messed up my Godot versioning again. Hey, okay. And the good camera's back. There we go. I am slightly green. Interesting. Okay. Great, that's that. Hopefully the dizziness is gone. It's getting better. I just need to change a setting on the camera. There we go. I should look less green now. Hey, oh look. Not green. Shows the right camera. Small victories. Okay. So, what were we working on before? My body rudely interrupted us by requiring food. Ugh. Okay, great. We were just getting everything back up. Spicy gluten, yes, I'm fine. Okay, so I am now again going to close out of this to make sure that I am editing the right version, because I kept demoing to y'all how to use the other version, but I want to make sure that any changes I make are going to work with the Git repo so that this continues to update. Great. Okay. So now someone asked earlier, what changes did I make? And the changes that I made was I flipped the naming on these two files right here. .gd is for a GD script file, and .tscn is for a scene. So these really should be flipped. This should be our player, because what we do is we instantiate a scene in order to add our player. And this should be player script. So that was the first change that I made. And the other thing that I did was I renamed character body 3D here to player, so that when we instantiate it in the future, it will show as a named object so that we don't need to guess as much. Those were the only two changes thus far. How do we run the... And Godot crashed again. Oh, I'm sorry that Godot's crashing on you. There is technically a web editor, but I don't know if it can support this project because we're using the forward plus renderer. If it continues to be a problem, say something again, Cat, I guess, and we can troubleshoot it if you want. How to run the code in Godot. So just swap the names, right? Yep, just swap the names. Currently, well, what you do to run code in Godot is you use one of these icons up here, but currently we don't have anything to run. We have the start of our script, but we have not actually finalized it in any way that it'll be functional. So what we need to do is we need to go back to our tutorial. That is where we ended, where move and slide was changed in the next major version release. So instead of us sending or providing the properties for velocity, snap vector, and then what direction is up and whether or not we want to stop on slopes, it is all set in variables in our player. What is the type? Character body 3D. That's all set in variables in player body 3D by default. Character body 3D by default. So with the code changes that we made, we do not need this code. So you can remove the code that's commented out, because that has become unnecessary given the changes to Godot. At least I'm like 90% sure. If we have a bunch of terrible bugs, we'll revisit this. But given my understanding of the Godot docs that we were looking at yesterday, that should be correct. And then the other thing that we did...
Spring arm to move with the character every frame. You'll see why shortly.
Great. We just need to add... I'm going to pop this out. We just need to add one more piece of code that'll have our spring arm, which we mounted our camera to a spring arm node, which will allow us to have the camera be in third person while also protecting it from clipping into geometry. The names, yes. File extensions, no. Yes. Thank you, Pharaoh. So we're going to define another function, func process delta, and then we're going to have spring arm dot. This is another change that I knew happened. Someone talked about it in the comments. Dot position. Okay. Dot position equal to translation. Ah, yes, it should be. There we go. Hey, okay. Spring arm dot position equals position. Great. And that will do something that we will learn later. That catches us up to 3 minutes and 50 seconds into our 6-minute, 11-second tutorial. This works better for the way that I need to work with the streams for copyright. And also, it's kind of wild that it has taken us now 2 hours and 45 minutes to get 3 minutes and 45 seconds into a tutorial. let's hit play and see where we go from here.
Now we've got code to move relative to the camera, but the camera doesn't rotate yet. First, we set the spring arm's properties. The spring length controls how far the camera moves away from the character. You also want to increase the margin to 0.2 or larger to give the camera more room to collide. The 0.01 default tends to clip inside walls. Next, we attach a new script to the spring arm node to control the rotation.
Great, we're going to pause there and we're going to take this slowly step by step. So, on our spring arm, spring length 7, margin, they did 0.0, oh, they just did 0.2. I mean, sure, oh my goodness, I can't type, 0.2. Wait, what code did we add? We just added a func underscore process delta spring arm dot position equals position, which we will learn what it does in a sec. I honestly can't explain this right now. I know intellectually like what it is supposed to do, but I don't know how it's working from a code perspective.
We add an exported variable for rotation speed. By
wait.
set as top level.
We need to create a script here. Create a script. Spring arm. Script. Create. Great. Okay.
True in the ready function, the camera can move independently from the character. It won't inherit its position, rotation, or scale. That's why we added a line in the character script to reposition the camera every frame. We capture the mouse cursor inside the window by calling input set mouse mode. This hides and locks the cursor to the game window.
So to restate there, the reason why we're doing this is because our spring arm is within the player model. So, or within the player node. So as the player moves around, the spring arm will be following it, but we don't necessarily want that. Because that means that, let's say we have a power-up in the game that makes the player half its size. And if we shrink down the player by 1/2, that would shrink down the spring arm by 1/2. So we decouple that, where we say, hey, the spring arm should not be affected by the transformations that apply to the player, but because we do that, we need to make sure that it is constantly connected to the player, because the point is just like, can I do this? I have a microphone arm next to me, and I want to show you using the microphone arm, but I think that is foolish because then my microphone would not be attached to anything. In essence, we're basically trying to create, like, again, it is like an arm that is holding the camera connected to the player. So as the player moves around, the arm is following them, and the arm can spin around the player to look at the player in third person. Hopefully you know how a third person camera looks in a video game generally.
You can release the mouse by passing a different mode instead. In unhandled input, we check if the event is mouse movement before continuing. Moving the mouse up and down on the screen pitches the camera up and down. Left and
let's go back
by passing a different mode instead.
Great. Okay. So, in our script, we @export, syntax has changed slightly, a variable mouse underscore sensitivity, and then we set it equal with automatic typing to 0.05, and then we run a function underscore ready where we set wait, just double checking that syntax hasn't changed. Oh, I spelled funk wrong. Oh my goodness, I cannot type today. Hey, there we go. Okay, great. So that has not changed. ready, which is just called whenever the object is instantiated. And we set as top level true. And again, that does the thing where it disconnects, so that if we were to I really struggle to see the difference between those small characters. Okay, set as top level. There we go. And then input dot set mouse mode input dot mouse mode captured. So again, that means that the mouse is captured by the game such that it can't leave the game's confines and you don't directly see the cursor. This is traditional for how FPS games work for camera control if you are using the mouse. Or not FPS, really any 3D game with camera control using the mouse. I just think by default a first-person game. Great. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in chat. Sorry, I thought I needed to sneeze. Apparently, my body is just going all sorts of haywire on stream today.
Unlocks the cursor to the game window. You can release the mouse by passing a different mode instead. In unhandled input, we check if the event is mouse movement before continuing. Moving the mouse up and down on the screen pitches the camera up and down. Left and right mouse movement rotates the camera around the y-axis. The clamp function prevents the camera from rolling over. You can change the degree amounts here to limit the camera's pitch. Meanwhile, the wrap F function makes the angle wrap between 0 and 360 degrees, so the rotation doesn't accumulate. Finally, we want to...
Okay. So to explain, I just don't want the hands. There we go, okay. So to explain in slightly more open English, what we're doing is whenever we get an input that is unhandled, specifically that means that if we get an input that we have not already mapped. If you were here yesterday, you'll remember that we went through and we mapped certain inputs like WASD and certain joystick controls to specific inputs. Capitalize I in input cat. We specifically mapped some things. But if we get an input that is not mapped, thus an unhandled input, then we pass in the input event. And if event is input event mouse motion, thus if the mouse is moving, we take our variable rotation degrees and we subtract the relative y times the mouse sensitivity. So basically we're trying to standardize based on different mice and that sort of thing. I don't know why it is defaulting to subtract. That is not a thing that I have an answer to. It must have something to do with... Oh, we want the camera to move the opposite direction as the mouse. If we move the mouse... Yes. We want the camera to be moving the opposite direction of the mouse. And that seems weird, but I'm going to grab some objects here. I have these 2 rolls of tape. One is purple, one is orange. And if this is our player, and this is our camera, and we want to see something, let's take this good old US currency American quarter that is, let's say, over here. In order to look at this, we move the mouse towards it. But we want the camera to move the opposite direction, thus going like this, so that we can see the quarter, because the camera is viewing this angle. If we were to move the camera towards it, the camera itself can overlap it, but it is looking away. It is looking the opposite direction. Hopefully that makes sense. That's why we're subtracting there. That took me a sec. And then what we're doing here with this clamp is we're saying don't rotate past these certain stops. In this case, we don't want you to be able to rotate in the X more than negative 90 degrees, because we don't want you to be able to go above completely vertical, because that doesn't make sense. And we don't want you to be able to go below 30 degrees. Basically, such that we don't want you to be able to like, that is preventing you from like looking up directly from the bottom of the character, which would get really glitchy really fast, because as you get closer, the spring that's keeping it from hitting the floor is going to get closer and closer and closer until everything's colliding. And yeah, we haven't added this code yet, Mandy. This is just what is next in the tutorial that we're talking about. So we still need to type this out and implement it. I'm just trying to explain it first before we implement it. And then for our Y, we do the exact same thing, again, moving in the opposite direction so that the camera moves away but turns towards. And then the wrap F here, we want you to be able to spin a 360 degrees around the character, but we don't want you to have gone like 720 and then 1080 and all of these different things, because then it makes it really hard for us to do our math and for you to go back. So we want to keep it between 0 and 360 for the sake of us and the way that we understand it. For the sake of the player, it looks the exact same, but it takes, if you've spun 720 degrees, we just say, oh, you went 360 twice, therefore you're still at 0. That is the code that we are using to control the camera on this spring arm. And now we can implement it. Again, ask questions if you don't understand. Also, wait, cat error 726. Which input? Did you set both inputs to capital? Because I think it might be the second input that you changed the first one to capital, but not the second. Because there are 2 inputs on that line. Just the first one, change both. Hey, it's fixed. Great. Okay. Glad that we fixed that. So, before we implement this, I'm going to do something that I usually do on my streams. It's going to be a little bit weird today because we kind of already did, but I think given where I'm at right now, taking extra breaks is not a bad thing. We are going to take a 5-minute bio break. I always like to do it halfway through the stream when we're an hour into it, because I know that people are often frequently going from stream to stream, back to back. So take 5 minutes, take care of yourselves, get up, stretch, drink some water, all that jazz. I'm going to keep drinking water, eating some food, hopefully getting my body back to more normal. I will see you all again in 5 minutes. Again, apologies for the 2 breaks, but I really want to make sure that I don't pass out live on stream with y'all. See you soon. Welcome back, y'all. Mandy, we actually have not implemented anything yet, so you are totally fine. We took a quick break to stretch, take care of ourselves, which I did earlier, but I'm trying to get into the habit of doing it in the halfway point of streams. So currently we have ready, and then I typed out function unhandled input, and we haven't actually implemented any of the code yet. So what we have here is if event is input event mouse motion rotation degrees dot x minus equals event dot relative dot y times mouse underscore sensitivity, and then rotation underscore degrees dot x is equal to clamp rotation degrees dot x from -90. They did 0.0. I think that's probably significant, to 30.0, because I know that GD script has typing, so we want to make sure we type it as a float rather than an integer. Just shaking up some don't pass out in the floor juice, and then we can copy this for our Y rotation. So we're looking at rotation degrees Y, which is going to be the X movement of the mouse. And we're looking to, instead of clamping it, we're going to wrap it. Wrap F from 0 to 360. Again, it needs to be a float, and I forgot. I'm back. What did you add? Got logged out randomly. Sorry about that, Kat. We just added what we were talking about before with the camera joint. Oh, let me share this tutorial with y'all. I forgot that I haven't done that yet. That's the point of this, is so that y'all can have this. And again, this isn't going to be perfect because, again, there are changes in Godot since then, but this is also, the stream is being recorded and put on YouTube. But you can have that up yourself so you can see this code window that I have myself that we're copying from. I'm going to give people a sec to take a look at this. I'm going to move this down. We're going to make this bigger. Take a sec. Finish that up. And again, if you have questions, errors, that sort of thing, let me know. OMG, thank you. You're so welcome. It's why, again, I've talked about this before for those of you who've been to my streams a lot. It is why I pull from existing tutorials to do these streams. Would you mind bringing the other script up on the screen afterwards? I totally can. Actually, can I split screen them? No, not with this scaling. I'm gonna leave this for another little bit. Yeah, the reason why I use existing tutorials is so that you can do that, because a lot of MLHers are, one, better like technical and theoretical programmers than I am, and do their streams based on unique materials themselves. But it is useful for me, and I think it is useful for y'all, to show like the process that I would walk through if I was doing a hackathon project and I wanted to make this. Here are the tutorials that I found. Here is me following them. You can see me troubleshooting them, and also you have all of the resources that I used afterward, because I know that sometimes watching stream recordings can be a little bit slower, because the point of streams is that I get to answer your questions. I get to stop. We get to talk about things. But if you're just trying to follow a tutorial, you're trying to learn something, that's not necessarily the most efficient. But when you're in person, you get to ask those questions. You get to stop, that sort of thing. Hopefully that's not too rambling. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your tutorial. The one from the previous hackathon was great. I'm so glad. Also, I highly recommend this channel. I know I do this a lot. GD Quest. We're actually going to be using another one of their tutorials later. They have a lot of good Godot content. They have a paid course, like many of these people. I neither recommend nor don't recommend any of those paid courses. I just know about the free stuff. Unrelated typo in the character script at line 21. Thank you. Okay, this is not a typo. I know, it's insane. Wait, no, it is a typo. We talked about this yesterday. I have been Minecraft pilled in the way that my brain thinks about 3D coordinates, where Minecraft does it different than every other system of 3D coordinates, where Minecraft is the two-dimensional plane that you stand on, the floor is X and Y, and the height is Z. Everything else, the floor that you stand on is XZ, and the height is Y. So you are right. That should be Z. I'm going to double check that in the tutorial. We're at 458. But that is a thing that, yep, you're entirely right. Thank you. Asnogos. Asnognos. Great, okay. That's where we, wait, no. Yes, that was where we were at. Great. So that's this script. It's whatever, thanks, okay. Green Yoshi, is there a specific point of this script that you wanted to look at? Because there is kind of a lot. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna move that off, and can I minimize? I wanna minimize our, hey, there we go, okay. So I'll show as much as I can. Great, I can show everything. This is our player script. What I will also do is I'm going to save this, and then on my other monitor, I'm going to git push so that this is live. Y'all can pull up my code that I have right here in that GitHub repo and take a look at it, because you can open up files in the GitHub repo itself and take a look at them. Committing that, pushing that. Great. Oh, I really should have done this so much sooner than this. Thank you, I was finishing the process function. Ah, yeah, that makes sense. I have not traditionally had GitHub repos for my projects because I've thought that my code was too jank, but I have realized that the point is not for my code to be perfect. The point is for y'all to have a resource to like be able to copy and paste from and diff check on and things like that. So if we open up github.com, yeah, let's just go to GitHub. Hey, that worked. Okay, great. Wow, that's a really old picture of me. What we can see is that we can see that some of these were updated now, and you can click on them and take a look at the code right here. So this is the up-to-date copy that I just pushed now, and that is on the GitHub as well. So if you want to take a look at that, that should hopefully be useful. With that, let me pull... Oh, this has happened before where I've lost the...
Simulate.
Picture-in-picture. This video's playing picture. How do I get you back? Okay, we're at 5:05. I'm just going to refresh the page.
Making your first 3D game?
Great. And we're back.
We want to rotate the character model to match its movement. Back in the character script, we check the velocity length first so we don't face forward when we stop moving.
Wait, we're just
Finally,
okay.
we want to rotate the character model to match its movement. Back in the character script, We check the velocity length first, so we don't face forward when we stop moving. Then, we store the velocity z and x in a vector 2 as our look direction. I know, it looks backwards, trust me. We need the opposite of what it normally returns here. Finally, we set the model's y rotation to the look direction angle. The angle function turns a vector 2 into radians. We assign this to the rotation y property so it faces the angle of movement. And there you have it, a 3D platformer character with a rotating player model and camera. We're making a course to teach you and people.
Great. So, I'm going to close out because we just finished the tutorial. And I'm going to add that code, which is... Oh, how do we do that now that this is, again, something that has been deprecated? Because what we did here is if velocity.length we can do get velocity. Okay, great. So if get velocity set to the docs we go in our character model 3D. We have a vector 3 that is velocity. Okay, it is set velocity and get velocity. Okay, I was right. So if set velocity, no, if get velocity dot length is greater than, I believe it was 0.2. Great, okay. That pass is just a placeholder to make sure that those errors were in formatting, not in what I was writing. Velocity dot length is greater than 0.02. Great, okay. Now I'm going to pop this out and we're going to use it like before. So again, this is different than there because there we had velocity as a variable. Here we have it as a, oh, there's a term for this in object-oriented programming that I'm forgetting, but it is something that is in the object that we interact with via getters and setters. I want to say property or something like that, but it's not. Parameter? No. Objects in object-oriented programming have functions and attributes. Thank you, Asnognos. Okay. Sorry, I get constantly caught up in trying to make sure that I'm reading and pronouncing usernames correctly, because as you have seen, I like skim words and lump them together, so I often miss letters. Anyway, var look direction, and this is a variable that we are creating, direction equals a vector 2, which we do the opposite direction, where it should be, hey, thank you, Franklin, as well, for attributes. And it should be get velocity dot z, and then get velocity dot x. Please work. Hey, okay. And then our model dot rotation dot y is equal to look direction dot angle. Now I'm just double checking because there was a comment that I think was about a change here. Rotation degrees is just rotation. Okay, yeah, we already fixed that one. Great. Okay, so theoretically now we have everything. Now you'll notice that everything is just the player. This tutorial does not cover all of the other things of creating our world. So we are now going to do that ourselves. We have theoretically a player script that should work, but we don't have anywhere to test it. They had their fun little like playground model that they were testing it in. It's not a playground, it's like a map, but whatever. So what we're going to do is we have created our player as a scene, and now we can instantiate it within our like main scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click plus. Can you go back to script? Yes, I'm actually going to again. So this should be lines 27 through 29 is what you're looking for. And also I just updated the Git repo. So you can take a look at the code there like I showed before. Got it? Great. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are now going to create a new scene. This has been our one scene with our player. Now we are going to create a scene that is going to be our world. So I'm going to click this plus button up here, and that is going to create a new scene, and you'll see that it is an empty scene. And our root node, we're going to click on 3D scene here, and I'm going to rename this root node to world, and everything will be inside of our world. Now I'm going to save this as world.tscn. This is nothing that we haven't done before. We have our new scene that is named world, and we have a node. And then within this world, I'm going to add a mesh instance 3D and a collision shape 3D. Actually, no, we're going to do the other thing. Okay, so we're creating a mesh, and this is the mesh that our player is going to stand on. And it's going to be real simple. We're going to create a plane mesh. This is what I was doing briefly before. Wait, how did you save it? I just used Command S because I'm on Mac. You would use Control S if you're on Windows or Linux. I'm going to go kind of fast creating this the first time because I might be making mistakes. And then we're going to go back through and I'll explain it again. So this is me explaining the overview of what we are trying to do so that you can understand our goals, and then we'll go back through for the specifics in a sec. But I don't feel comfortable with you following along with me while I make errors. When we're following a tutorial, that's already been vetted, but this, I could make mistakes. So we've now created world mesh instance 3D. And then what we're going to do, we've done this before in a previous stream. We're going to take this mesh instance and we're going to create a collision object from it. And we're going to do that by creating a simplified convex collision sibling by just clicking on mesh and clicking on that button. And hey, oh, look, we have our collision shape 3D. We need a rigid body. This is again why I didn't want you to follow. Rigid. Wait, do we? I guess so. We're going to be testing this. We are going to figure it out. Great. Okay, again, I'm clicking some buttons without necessarily explaining it as I figure things out. Give me a sec. Theoretically now we have a sun, we have a player, we have a platform. Let me make this platform bigger. Are you going to do this over again when we figure it out? Yes, I'm going to do all of this over again so you can follow. Do not worry. This is just me. I, again, don't want you to be following along and taking pauses to, like, make sure y'all are getting everything, only to find out that I did everything entirely wrong. Yeah, because there, we didn't actually want a rigid body. We wanted a static body. There we go. Okay. Now, theoretically, if I hit play. Come on. Yes! We have camera control. Oh, my goodness. Okay, there is jank. There is something that is wrong. But we have camera. We have camera. And we have movement. Oh my goodness. Stuff is so broken. Okay. None of my WASD is moving anything. But we can theoretically spin around the character when it is not breaking. How do I break out of this? Oh my goodness, it has stolen my... How do I... There we go. Oh my goodness. I didn't think about this. Okay. I need to use Command Q to close out of that, which you would need to Alt F4 if you were on Windows, which is, again, jank. Stuff is wrong here. This is really disappointing. I'm going to test something that shouldn't change anything. Okay, we have gravity working. Hey, and now when I look around, it's working. Okay, so we don't have... Oh, sometimes. I don't know what is causing that flashing. That's the thing that is... Okay. Well, at least our... I'm going to go over what we did to create our world, because that is now successfully working. So I'm going to delete everything. Great. So we just have our scene that is world.tscn, and we have a 3D node that I have renamed to world. That is all that we have in this scene. Computer overload's just trying to give us seizures. I hope not. I really hope that no one is photosensitive epileptic. I apologize if you are. I did not know that that was going to happen. But within our world, we need to have really 4 things. We need to have a platform for the player to stand on. We need to have the player themselves. We need to have a source of light so that the camera can render. And we need to have some sort of general world surrounding that, that the camera can render as a background. We're going to start first with that floor. So we're going to right-click, add child node, and we are going to get a mesh instance 3D, just like we've done before. So you can grab that. And now, just like we did before, we're going to add a mesh to this. And in this case, we're going to go up into our mesh, and we are going to get, before I used a plain mesh, but we are not going to use that this time. We are going to use a box mesh. And you'll notice, hey, we have a nice little box here. Now, again, like last time, we want to change the size and shape. In this case, we want to spread it out wide and flat so that it can be our world. In this case, we're going to increase our X and our Z dimensions because Y is vertical. So before I did 50, so let's do 50 and 50. So we have our platform, and I'm hoping that its thickness will help with an error that we were having, but we will see. So again, mesh instance 3D, we've created a box mesh, and then in our size, it is 50 and 50. How do I add world to the existing project? Go ahead and just click this plus up here to create a new scene. And then when you do that, you'll see this button right here to create a 3D scene, and then you can rename it to world. And then when you save it, you'll just name it world, but I'm not saving that. The last thing that we want to do is we want to move this down. Size is not appearing in some of our inspector windows. So if you click on this, you might not see size because you might need to click on the mesh right there, that like image, and then you should see size. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Great. Okay. Glad to hear that that's fixed. Then the last thing that we want to do is you'll notice that we have this grid. That grid is 0. And you'll notice that our floor is poking up above 0. And we generally want our player for their like main place that they're standing at to be 0, just for my own sanity. So we're going to transform in our Y down by -0.5. And now you'll notice that our grid is right on top of our floor. So we've created our floor. Now, you'll remember before you create a mesh and then you create a collision shape. In this case, we have a mesh, but our character can't collide with it. And there is a tool that allows you to take a mesh and create a collision shape from it. And we didn't use that last time because I think it's important to show you how to create a hitbox for a character, because we talked about this before. If your character has like weird flowing capes and things like that, you don't want their cape to be able to stick you on a door. You want their hitbox to be their main part of their body. So using a capsule for a hitbox is always a good idea for a character. But for the world, you want the hitbox to match the world so that your character is actually interacting with the world. So when we select our mesh instance 3D, you'll notice that there's this little mesh like tab that shows up here. And if we click on it, we have the option to create tri-mesh static body. And in this case, you'll remember that our player is a controller 3D. It is a character body 3D. And that is one type of physics object. Then we also have a kinematic a rigid body object. This used to be called kinematic, and that's what I'm mixing up. Then we have a rigid body object, which is, like we talked about before, something that physics could act on. So if you were to shoot a cannonball in this game, that cannonball would be a rigid body. It can interact with things, it can bounce off of things, it has physics. But we don't want the character to be able to step on the floor and the floor to start to fall. We want the floor to be static, to not be able to move, to not be able to have forces act upon it. Therefore, we want to create a tri-mesh static body. And when we click that, we'll notice that it automatically creates a static body 3D node for us and a collision shape 3D node for us. And it has done all of that automatically. And now just by clicking that one button, we have collisions from this floor that will match the mesh. Now, if we were to change this mesh's size, if I were to shrink it down, you do not need to do this, I'm doing this as an example. If I were to quarter this, you'll notice that we have that wireframe outside. That is because this collision shape, again, is still the old one. So what we do is you'd click on it, mesh, create tri-mesh static body, and you would delete the old one. In this case, we would delete the old one first, and then create the mesh again. What I guess I'm trying to say is this does not update automatically if you were to change the main mesh, but it is a very good shortcut for creating it in the first place. I know that was slightly all over the place. Hopefully that was good enough. Now, the next thing that we want to do is add light, so our camera has something to see based on, and a world background. You'll notice in this case we have this sort of like blue sky, brown kind of below the horizon line. Midnight, why not use a plane mesh? Theoretically, we should use a plane mesh. I am hoping so hard that our spring arm was not interacting with a plane correctly, and that it needs more than just a plane, because we could go through the floor, which means that our spring arm wasn't working. I'm hoping that was the problem. You could totally use a plane. I also think it is generally good practice to use 3D, like I guess for your floor or your ground itself, the character will never be below the ground. But if we were to create a ceiling, you wouldn't want it to be a plane, because a plane can only be rendered from one direction because it's a two-dimensional object. That's a little bit complicated, and it gets into rendering and things like that. But it could be a plane in this instance. I have just chosen to make it a box, which doesn't actually really change anything. So we want that environment. And we have these two options right up here, where it says toggle preview sunlight and toggle preview environment. This allows us to mess around with things without needing to set that up each time, which is perfect for our player, so we can look at an example for our player without needing to go through like a complicated process in order to set that up, because we don't need the player to have their own light. But in this instance, this is our world, and we want our world to have light. So we can just, oh, how do I get it down to 0.5? Thank you. In the mesh instance, if you scroll down to transform under node 3D and under position, -0.5 in the Y. Just like how we moved our collision shape up by 1 in our character, here we are moving our mesh instance down by 0.5. And again, you'll notice that if you transform, actually this is different. If you transform, my goodness, if you transform this, you'll notice that our collision shape moves with it, which is a good thing, because our collision shape is a child node to the mesh instance. If you know about nodes and trees, that should make sense. If it does not, feel free to ask questions, but I am not the best person to explain the data structure that is a tree. Okay, so we want this environment, and what we can do as a quick shortcut is if you were to click on these 3 dots, you can see the preview sun, and preview environment, and we can just click add environment to scene and add sun to scene, and it adds those to our scene for us. Again, when we get to adding lighting and adding shaders and making our game look pretty, we'll want to make changes. But for now, these are our basics. So now we just need our player. And to do that, that's pretty easy. We're gonna right click on player.tscn, and we're gonna click instantiate. And you'll notice a copy of our player shows up in our world scene here and is sitting right there. And now I'm going to test this. Okay, that did not work. So we didn't really fix anything, but at least I have explained to y'all. Whoa, why is the camera doing that? Okay, at least I have explained to y'all how we create our base environment. Now we get to do the interesting process that is troubleshooting. I'm gonna give people a sec to catch up, ask questions, all that good shit. I usually don't swear on streams, goodness. You can tell that I'm a little bit off. Is it normal that my player is inside the box instead of on top? So chances are what that means is that your box here, you transformed it, or your position was either positive. So if we were to do positive 0.5, you'll notice that our player is inside the box. Or if it were to be at 0, our player is inside the box. But if we do negative 0.5, we are on top. Worst case scenario, what you can do is you can just take your player and drag up on this gizmo to have them float in the air, and gravity will bring them down. So there, you'll notice that our player is now sitting on the ground because of gravity. Okay. Hopefully, GHW, that should help with that question. Sumi, wait, sorry, how did we get the platform? So, the platform, what we did was we created a mesh instance 3D. So right click, add child node, mesh instance 3D. And then I want to hide our existing platform. Hey, I'm glad that that's fixed at GHW. In our mesh instance 3D, we clicked on mesh, we added a box mesh. We now clicked on this picture and we set size to 50 by 50. And then in order to give it collisions, we clicked on this mesh tab right here, create tri-mesh static body. And then down here in transform, we moved it down by 0.5. I know that I went over all of that really fast, but the point is just to give you a refresher. And if you have more specific questions on which step you're getting stuck on, let me know. Errors. Snap vectors to clear the class. While I'm waiting for people to see if they have any questions, I'm going to fix these bugs. We don't need this variable anymore. It's not a problem. It is just an unused variable. You don't need to make that change if you don't want to, or if you're working on something else. And then, okay, cat, I guess, to have any visible effect, world environment requires its environment property to contain an environment. Its camera attributes property to contain camera attributes. Yes. Okay, so what happened there is, this is the thing that I actually encountered earlier, is if you were to, in your world, add a world environment, you will get that error. But if we go to here, let me delete this to show you. If you go to these 3 dots here and click add environment to the scene, it'll have all of that in it for you. Sorry, after you add the box mesh, what do? Totally fine. Add, no, not add. Yes. So we add a child node that is the box mesh. And then we're going to click on our box and change the size here. I'm going to leave you with that. It's going to be 50 and 50. Sue me, and then I'm going to answer a question. Let me know when you've done that. Midnight, I keep getting the error. Video card drivers seem to not support the required Vulkan version when trying to run the scene. What you should try doing is up in the upper right-hand corner, it says forward plus. Try moving it down to either mobile or compatibility and try it again. It might be that your computer isn't powerful enough to run the game the way that we've configured it. In the YouTube tutorial, does it show the process for adding this world environment? My computer has froze most of this live stream, but not anything else. No, that is not in this YouTube tutorial, but there's a previous YouTube tutorial that does walk through this. Let me grab that. I will get that in a sec, actually. Midnight, glad that worked. Iris is amazing. Great. Sumi, yep, did it. Great. Okay. Ooh, I'm dealing with like 5 people at once here. We can do this. Okay. So you've done that, Sumi. Now what you want to do is you want to, in this mesh tab right here, you want to click this and click create tri-mesh static body. And that will create our collisions for our box automatically. And then the last thing that you want to do is under transform, set Y to -0.5. And that should get you everything that you need. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I fixed cat environment variable, Sumi box mesh, Midnight video card, Mandy, YouTube tutorial. Yes, there's another YouTube tutorial that shows this sort of thing, which I'm going to grab next. It also talks about creating a third-person camera moving the player around, but it is not as good. Not as good, I say, even though we have broken code right now. It is my last month's stream, include that. So you can search on the MLH YouTube channel, and you should be able to find that recording. If you were to search Dimmer in the YouTube channel in the live section, you should be able to find that, but I will also grab that link to that tutorial before the end of this. How do I get the player and mesh instance 3D into the world? So you get the player into the world differently than you get the mesh instance 3D. The player, what you do is in our file system here, you right click on player.tscn and you click instantiate. And what that does is that makes a copy of our scene, and that is why we created it as a separate scene. We could have created all of that in here, but this allows us to instantiate it so that if we wanted there, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but this is really useful if you have like enemy characters where you want to create multiple enemies in one level. That's why you would do this. So it's right click instantiate. And then in order to add the mesh instance 3D, we do right click add child node like we did before. Or you could click this plus button up here. That is also add child node. That's how we got the mesh instance 3D. Is there a way to free the mouse from the command window? This is in macOS. I used Command Q to quit out of the window. Theoretically, this is where we would add a ability to break out using escape and things like that, but we haven't had time to do that yet, and I didn't realize that that was going to be a problem beforehand. So Command Q. On Windows, you could use Command Tab to switch, or Control Tab to switch to something else. Did that work? Iris is amazing. Oh, I'm sorry. My brother has an Iris laptop and also has those sort of struggles. How do you add directional light 3D? What we did there, I'm going to delete this so we can show again. In this top bar of the window, you'll see that we have a little sun icon that's highlighted, and that is preview sunlight. In essence, if we turn this off, you'll notice that, hey, oh, look, everything's dark. There's no sun anywhere, which is hard for us to mock out our models, our whatever that we're working on. So it has a preview for us. But if we want to add that to our scene, what we can do is we can click on this 3 dots and click Add Sun to Scene. And that creates our directional light with all of those default variables. Again, you would change those default variables if you wanted to do something more artistic, which hopefully we'll have time for. I have a dedicated stream for setting up lighting. But for now, this is a good test. Green Yoshi, all right, awesome, good to know. I don't know what that is referring to, but I've been saying a lot of things. Okay, oh, I think I messed something up. When I run it, it's a dark gray background and a dark gray bean guy thing. Kat, did you do the process for adding the directional light in the world environment? Because if you have not done that, if we remove both of these, this should be what you're seeing. When we run it, you should be seeing this. And that is because we have not added any world. So if you do this process, add sun to scene, add environment to scene, and you run it, it should be better. I added them. Was I supposed to edit them at all? You were not. Try deleting them and re-adding them for me. You can just right click on them and select delete nodes. And if that does not work, then we'll do more troubleshooting. Midnight, I've tried copying code over from GitHub, but the camera movement just doesn't seem to happen. That is complicated enough that I can't troubleshoot that off the top of my head. What I would recommend is that you just pull the project down and open from a zip file again to get the exact copy that is running on my machine, which I'm going to update before you do that. One second, committing it. Pushing it. Okay, so that should be entirely up to date. So you should be able to pull that. Green Yoshi X likely referred to the Command Q trick. Yes. Nope, didn't work. Interesting. Does it look like that example that I showed before? Where it looks like, I don't know if this will work actually. Where it looks like this. Because if it looks like this, then I know what you're talking about. If it does not look like this, then it is a different error than I'm thinking of. Wait, go back to it. Will do. where it looks like this, where we can see that we have our bean, but it all blends together because it's all that like same shade of gray. No, it doesn't look. Mine doesn't. Ah, okay. Then I think I'm gonna try this. That's not the error that I thought it would be. Just the bean in the background. But do you have... Okay, then I guess does it look like this? Because if it looks like this, then I understand what's happening. This is still freezing too bad. I'm going to try coming back and rewatching the live. Do I come back to Twitch or watch it on YouTube? Watch it on YouTube. YouTube will have the tutorial that we followed in the description. Along with Mandy, I will make sure that I add that extra... Actually, should I have a mesh instance 3D in the player thing? No, that should be in the world. Cat. Mandy, while I'm waiting on Cat, I'm going to quickly find that other tutorial for you and make sure I put that in the description of the live stream. So when you find the live stream recording from today, it'll also have the brain, the tutorial. So the other thing, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow for a total of 7 hours. We'll see how my brain gets after that. It might become a little spicy. Oh, goodness. So many things are wrong with yesterday's live stream recording. But I found the tutorial. I'm going to drop it in Twitch chat for anyone. Great, so that is the tutorial that we followed last month, which walked through creating a world and things like that. It's not perfect for exactly getting to here, but it'll give you the information that you need. Sorry, just grabbing. Before I forget, making sure that everything is here. Okay, that is all saved and squared away. I can look at chat again. It is going to be in the description for today's stream and on the recording from yesterday's stream. Great. Okay. Found it and it's not freezing. Hey, that's good. As a beginner in Godot, I found that tutorial to be quite helpful. Oh, it's a wonderful tutorial. It's a very good tutorial. It has a different process for creating a player character than the one that we used here, which is a simpler one. And it is a very good one. We created a great demo project in that stream. I love that tutorial, but I'm just trying to say that it is different from the one that we have done here. So you can't take everything that you did there and directly port it over. You learn from that one and apply those skills to create this world. With that, it is 6:54. So we are almost out of time. I'm going to switch back to my just talking view here and refocus my camera. Okay. Because now we just get to, I'll answer any remaining questions. What is coming up next on the schedule? After this is how to make 8-bit game music with Zane, which is happening right after this. That should be really fun. Definitely stick around for that. Oh, I'm going to drop the check-in link one more time in chat. Make sure you check in to get bonus swag and points for your guild. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Green Yoshi, totally agree. Totally worth the time. Also, I feel like there is an increasing stream delay between me and y'all. Because I think now I am currently... Oh, wait, Pharaoh, you had something. It was in both. A cat. Oh, goodness. Whoa, I missed so many things. Sorry to add more questions, but my collision shape 3D and world environment have errors for some reason. Sumi, if you tell me what those errors were, let me know. Cat, I guess it was both removed from the player thing and it's the exact same. Okay. Well, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time, along with at 3 p.m. Eastern time and at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So at any of those, you can stop by and we can try troubleshooting this. Pharaoh, running the debug window shows my capsule in extremely close up. I move the camera back. So you don't want to move the camera back there. What you're looking for is in your spring arm, you want to increase your spring length. We have it set to 7. You might not have changed that. That is how close and far the camera is from the player. It's saying that I got to create an environment and then I got to add a shape to my collision 3D. I might have missed something. Sorry. No, you're totally fine. Okay. You said there's another event after this. Okay. Sorry, I do this frequently where I start to answer one question, then someone comes in chat and I read it out loud. I'm going to answer all of these questions. First of all, I have to create an environment and I have to add a shape to my collision. So what it sounds like there is your collision shape. I'm going to delete these. Go ahead and delete static body 3D and collision shape 3D. When you click on your mesh instance 3D, I want you to click on mesh and create tri-mesh static body. That'll automatically create the shape for your collision shape 3D. Spicy Gluten refreshed the schedule and I saw it. Great. Pharaoh did not adjust the spring arm. Thank you kindly. Glad that I've been able to fix at least one error that someone's had today. Cat, tomorrow at 9 or 10. I didn't hear. Let me double check. I believe it is 9 a.m. Eastern time. That is what I have on my schedule. But I just want to double check. Tomorrow is the 10th. Yes. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be live, and the stream title is implementing a third-person camera in Godot, so it is perfect for us to be troubleshooting this. I'm going to need to, okay, I'll bump some things back. I'll rearrange my stream plan. We'll be able to get this to work. I want to make sure that we troubleshoot this and get this working, because having it functional is more important than having it pretty. So I'll be able to adjust some things around. With that, though, it is 6:59, and we have a stream happening right after this again, how to make 8-bit game music with Zane. So stick around for that. Until then, thank you all so much for coming. This has been a wonderful stream. It's been a little chaotic. I've been a little up, a little down, but all of the resources are there in the recording, and I've had a wonderful time. I hope you have too. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. Until then, stick around for the next stream, and happy hacking, y'all. Bye.
Good job.
Thank you, Kat. As Anoskos, thanks to Eat More Sugar, I will. Great stream. Thanks for the help. You're welcome. Great stream. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, y'all. Happy hacking.